nowadays anything is a placement. If you go to a label, they'll tell you like we're paying for mixtape records these days because they have to put it up on Spotify, they have to put it up on iTunes.
Peace, what's going down? It's DJ Payne, one for BeatStars.com, on the line with a man who's never done an actual video interview before. This is the official face reveal of Djay Cas, right. Someone I've known as a colleague for what, almost a decade now.
Maybe a little longer.
So, speaking of time, how long have you been making beats?
I've been doing this since I was about maybe 14, so...
And you're 23 now?
Like 16 years. Yeah, we'll go with that.
I tried, man, I tried. Damn, yeah, I've only been making beats for 3 years because I'm 17. So, what was your first major placement?
The first record I ever did, I co-produced the record with a guy named Young Focus, and what happened was he was working on some instruments, and I'm like hundreds of miles away, and I'm on AIM Messenger, AOL Instant Messenger. That right there alone shows you how long I've been making records. He's doing the instruments, and I'm working on some drums. And I was like, you know what? I think what you have and what I have, it blends. Let's put the two things together. And I sent it off to Ice Cube. And his DJ, rest in peace, DJ Crazy Tones, he called me like that day. He was like, okay, you need a lawyer now because this is going to be your first album placement. It happened so quickly. And like Focus, I want to say he was still in high school at the time. Like he wasn't even old enough to see an R-rated movie. I think he was 17. Like it all happened so quickly, so easily. It was crazy.
You spoke on that placement recently, something about sending an email and getting ignored a bunch of times with the Ice Cube situation. What was that about?
The first time I'd ever sent an email to Crazy Tones, nothing happened. Like I sent him the beats and he didn't even respond. I didn't have any idea he even heard of me. And then it was almost like about a year later, like to the date, like I know it was around this, and I just sent him that beat I worked on with Young Focus and then another one, and he responded immediately. So it was just like perfect timing. Either he was just at the laptop or the beats I sent him a year before just sucked, and he didn't care to respond. So now, like it was right then and there. There was no waiting or nothing. It wasn't any, we don't know if we're going to use this beat or anything like that. They instantly wanted it. And another funny thing was that the album was done when we sent them the beat. So they had to redo the artwork on the back to include us.
That's interesting for a lot of reasons, especially the idea that we as producers might not realize our beats aren't ready yet. And so if we're getting ignored, we might take that personally rather than just as a sign to develop further.
No, the stuff I sent him previously was definitely just trash. Like, just not, I would hate to hear that record today and like have it attached to my face. That would suck.
You still have it though, right? Somewhere lying around?
Don't find it.
I'm just saying, because there was the whole trash beat challenge that Kato did, and so it was fun. It was fun for everybody.
Let's be honest, like I would have won with that record. The stuff I sent them, it sounded like something you'd hear in the background of a Burger King commercial.
Well, those Burger King commercials are probably paying, $20,000 for a sync fee. So,
right, I should start shopping them.
Yeah, it could be a lot worse. So, producers often ask the question to all of us, how do I get placements? And obviously the answer is pretty complicated, but now I'm asking you that question. If you were to answer that, minus all the sarcasm and frustration, how would you?
It's sad that you have to like preface it with, don't answer this sarcastically. I think you know me a little too well. Okay, so the placement situation is nowadays anything is a placement. If you go to a label, they'll tell you like we're paying for mixtape records these days because they have to put it up on Spotify, they have to put it up on iTunes. So any record that you do with an artist, and another thing is like the line between a major artist and an indie artist is so blurred these days. You don't even know who's secretly signed or who's going to be signed in a week from now. That project you worked on 6 months ago is now getting funded by a major label or being distributed. So really the only way, like the only thing you need to get a placement is just to do the work on the record. That's it. If they cut a record to your song and they release the music, they're gonna put it on some kind of streaming platform, and there you go. That's really it. As far as like the traditional way of getting a placement with a major label, whew, I'm from Charleston, South Carolina, so it's a small town. There's no major artists coming through here. I was doing was I was going back and forth to Atlanta, to LA, going to somewhere where a major artist would be, trying to get into a studio session or somewhere where they would, I could get their attention, play them the record and hope that they cut something to it and put it out or held on to it for an album. And that would take, sometimes you wouldn't know that a song is getting used for years, so another thing, one of the worst parts of it was you didn't know that a song wasn't getting used for years. So you're thinking for 2 years straight, like, oh, I'm going to be on this album, I'm going to be on this album. And then, like, they start putting out track lists and yours is not on there, or they never got in touch with you to clear the sample. So you're like, all right, they're probably not going to use it. They're just not going to tell me. They reach out when they have something. No one's going to reach out to you to tell you, yeah, we didn't use it. That's just something you got to go through on your own. So it was a lot crazier back then. Nowadays, like people will just put out every record and they'll put it up on Instagram and it gets enough likes and they'll just put it out. Now it's on the same platform as a major album, but it's a freestyle and it's still able to get streamed and it's still monetized. So, like I was saying, everything is a placement now.
Speaking of placements, you've had at least 3 placements with Jeezy. Is it 4, including CTE or Nothing, co-produced by the two of us. And over the last decade, that's a pretty good number. Tell me about the track you produced on his last album, which was the Valet interlude on Pressure, because you have an interesting story about that and maybe a damn that hurt moment / lesson learned.
Yeah, the lesson learned, I'm going to be straight honest with you guys, don't sample. Just stop sampling. You know, it's kind of like an addiction. Like you just love the sample. I grew up sampling. You know, I can play my own stuff, but samples, they really molded like my ear as I was coming up and I was learning. Like I was inspired by like Kanye and Just Blaze and DJ Premier. So it's a habit that I have, but when it comes down to business, they cleared the sample and they're not going to call you and put you on the phone with the artist that you sampled and be like, all right, figure it out. They just go ahead and negotiate because it's a major label. They don't want to have to wait on you. You don't know what you're doing. So they negotiate without you. And then I looked up, I don't have a piece of that record. The sample took half and then Jeezy takes half. So I don't have a percentage of that record at all. Now, don't get me wrong, Jeezy's last album it didn't go platinum. But if it did, if something got picked up, if in the future somehow it becomes part of a meme and it does numbers, I'm not like, I don't have any stake in that at all. And the only reason is because I sampled. Now, what's crazy about it is there's music in there that I added, my guitar person added, which is original stuff. Like the bass line or the keys or, the guitars, that's new material. The drums are new material. But the sample, the artist came in and took all of it. Well, half, but they took the whole share.
You took all of your composer share, yeah.
Yeah, so even the stuff that I did that was original on that record, I don't have any claim to it now.
Well, let me move on because I'm getting angry because this has happened to me more than once. And I think that needs to change. If you sample somebody, you're giving them a piece of the pie, but them taking 100% of your piece is absolutely ridiculous, given that they wouldn't even be a part of the conversation if you hadn't sampled them. And, granted, right, it's not always the artist. It's sometimes the publisher. It's sometimes the publishing house. It's sometimes the label that owns their master.
This time it was definitely the artist.
Okay. Who was the artist?
But I'm not giving them any more free, publicity. They're good. You know what's funny is that the album itself, like the whole album, like the whole situation was just an odd experience because we'd worked so much, and then he finally puts out an album with me on it. Because I did bag music for the people that might be watching this and not know. Me and a guy named Andrew Lloyd, who's one of like the best pianists, and even like his synth work is amazing. He did a record with me for Trap or Die Part 2 called Talk Them. And then Jeezy puts that out in 2010. He waits 5 years and does a music video for it. I have no idea why, but he does that. And then we finally get something on the album, and then he doesn't put out liner notes for the album. He sold it like it was a mixtape. So you just buy it and you get a CD. There's no artwork, there's nothing. So even then, like, I'm not listed, the sample's not listed, no one is credited. The only way to get the credits, you got to go to his website and specifically look for it, which I don't know how many people are doing that these days.
On February 28th, this is back to the Ice Cube, you tweeted that today I earned $15 from royalties on a beat Ice Cube got for me in 2012 that he released on a mixtape in 2014. Which royalties were you referring to? What kind?
Well, it was on YouTube royalties. So basically, there are companies out there that can collect royalties for you for like streaming and stuff like this. And I was contacted in I want to say 2016, and it was by the admin company. So it was a guy that I've known for a minute, and we chopped it up. And he was like, "Well, basically, you've got money sitting here that you're not touching, and you could probably use it to, take care of bills or fund something, invest." And so I'm like, all right, first of all, I have no idea how to get this money. These people do know how to get the money. Let me just go ahead and work with them. So ever since then, like, I'll notice songs that I did years ago, or indie artist is actually like racking up plays and earning hundreds to thousands of dollars. But the Ice Cube record, he gave me, like, he paid me for it in the year 2012, and it was supposed to be a part of an album. But then it came out. Now, this is an oddity in itself. When's the last time you heard an Ice Cube mixtape? So he puts out a mixtape, and it's on the mixtape, and that's it. And his son is on the record, who actually played him in the movie Straight Outta Compton. So they do the song together, and it got however many streams on YouTube, and then that was 2012. He didn't put the record out. Well, it didn't get leaked to YouTube until like 2014. So now, 5 years later, I was able to earn $15 from it. So that's pretty good.
Well, I want to pick up on that because a lot of unsigned artists offer producers. I'm sure this happens to you. Correct me if I'm wrong. It happens to me. They offer producers royalties in exchange for free beats. They'll say, "Yo, just give me this beat for free. I don't want to pay for it, but I'll cut you in on the royalties," which isn't really a fair thing to say because producers are entitled as creators of a song to certain royalties just automatically. But if an Ice Cube project isn't generating that many royalties and he's a hip hop legend, my guess is that the average new artist isn't either. So how do you deal with those kinds of offers when you receive them?
Blocking somebody usually works. I mean, honestly, if someone is coming to you and they're offering you something that you already have, what does that do for you? That's like someone coming to you and saying, "Can you give me a beat in exchange for oxygen?" I'm already going to get, on any basic situation, I'm already entitled to my share of the record. I'm already entitled to credit. So you telling me that, all right, do this record for me and I'll credit you, that's not even an offer. That's just everyday life. So if they're really ignorant about it, if they're the kind of people that really get, like the ones that I see you posting that just get angry with you and, want to curse you out for not working for them for free, then yeah, it's going to go down a bad road. But there are some people who just don't know. And I've actually taken the time out and been like, no, actually, this is how it goes. This is how you set up the royalty payments. You need to be with this company and we can split, if you get some kind of spins or if it's on YouTube, if it's on here, on there. So some people really just don't know. And then there are some people who are really just like, I don't want to give you anything. I just want you to produce for free for me because there are 30 million free beats that I already have access to. I just want yours as well. They're just like beat collectors or something. And those are the people you really have to watch out for because if you're not willing to pay the people who are making the beat, if you're not willing to pay your engineer, if you're not willing to pay your director, what are you spending the money on? How are you investing in yourself? How are you going to push the record? So if you're not promoting the record, neither one of us are going to win. What's the point?
So you started uploading beats online for license, and you started this actually years before I did with another company, and that was even after your major placements. That was during a time when a lot of industry producers were resistant to online beat licensing. I mean, to a degree, they still are today. But what made you, even back then, want to make beats publicly available?
For me, it was, like I said, I come from a city where there's not a big like music scene, there's not a lot of artists coming through. And like the market over here, it wasn't really where I thought it should be. Like I could say I deserve X amount of dollars for my beat, but everyone out here is not used to paying that price or just can't understand it because there's no like real ladder. So the top artist, even he's like, all right, I don't see how I'm going to get that money back if I do invest in this beat. So why would I give you that much money? So if the market isn't there for it and you have people online who are willing to give you 3 and 4 times that amount, then it's a no-brainer. Especially just like if you if you can find an audience online, which is something that happened early for me on, like you said, on a different website, and you have all these offers coming in, you're gonna keep it up because you know I was never one of those people that was like, okay, I'm gonna hold off on this record. I'm not letting anybody rap on it unless your name is Jay Z or Nas or something like that. Like I was always like, okay, if you want to pay me for my work, I'm more than willing to respect your craft as well. So that's just the way I've always seen it. And again, like when you come from a town where there's not like a booming music industry, you've got to make moves somehow. Like I can't always be on a plane. I can't always be in LA. I can't always be in Atlanta. I can't always go to New York. So having the website set up really helps me not have to worry about where my next, where that next deal is going to be coming from.
So recently you joined BeatStars. What made you choose BeatStars as your primary licensing platform?
I'll be honest, like it's a lot of the features, like the fact that you can customize the licenses, and then when someone goes to your site, all the licenses are in plain view, and you can explain what they are. So it's not so much, I hate to say hand holding, but really that's what it is a lot of the time. A lot of people just aren't familiar with getting a record or what is meant to be or what is expected of them. And BeatStars, everything is right then and there. And I'm so used to doing it like hand to hand. After a while, I kind of moved away from having all my records up, and I just started kind of working with people that I knew. But that gets tedious when you have to actually make every single sale. So I got to the point where now, if someone goes to my store, they can pick out the beats that they want. They can pick out the license that they want, and I don't have to go back and forth with them and say, well, this would be the best option for you, or that would be the best option. A lot of the people on BeatStars are already educated on what they want, what they need, what they're looking for. They can search through whatever record I have and just grab it and go. So really, like the ease of use and the features and all that's really what hooked me into it because I can be somewhere, I can be asleep. I can get some rest and someone can be on my site just picking up records, and working on an entire EP or something without me even knowing. So that's the crazy part for me.
So switching gears, a heavily accomplished and highly influential producer by the name of Honorable C Note has a collective of producers called Honorable Court, and you're a member of that. How did you link up with Honorable C Note?
How is an interesting question. I've known him for so long. I'm trying to remember what our first interaction was. I think it was just another producer that I saw working. I know it's been around 10 years. Like it might have been around 2009. And I would send him beats back and forth, and just we would co-produce. So then when he got to Atlanta around the same time I was working with Jeezy in like 2011, he had a studio set up there, and I was like, yo, I need to come down to the studio and get those files from you so I can have the beat mixed down and show it to Jeezy. Hopefully he'll record something to it. We were just working on records, trying to see where we land them. And then once he picked up some steam, he was like, look, I'm working on this producer collective. Do you want to be a part of it? And for me, it was a no-brainer because he like through the years that I've known him, he's shown me that he always moves like on the right side. He doesn't do anything questionable business wise. It's not once you get to the point where you've done business before, where you've had records out, it's not so much like who has the best beat, who had not to say that, he's not the most talented person, because he is, you know, like but it's not so much about whose 808s hit harder, it's about who can I guarantee isn't gonna screw me over. Who knows their way around the building and who can like conduct themselves in a professional manner. So just Sino always like having like just great advice and being in those rooms before I was able to get there, I knew that working with him, I would never regret it. So that like when he asked me for it, I didn't even hesitate.
So moving forward, what projects are you looking forward to this year?
I want to say there's like 50 albums that I'm trying to get on. I want to mention every single person I've ever sent a beat to and be like, okay, me and him are going to drop an album, or me and this guy are going to do that. But I've done that before. Like the thing about Jeezy, I'm going to circle back to that real quick. We've done so much work that when I was in Atlanta with him, we had an album almost come out. And I talked about it in an interview with another site. And then when it didn't come out, I was like, damn, okay, it sounded too good to be true. And now it is too good to be true. And I look like, I'm making it up. And another thing is, after a while, you get tired of your records just being in other people. So if the label decides the song's not good enough, if the artist decides, or the A&R, or anybody in a position of power decides that that beat you worked on is not good enough, your song gets shelved. So what I'm most excited about is putting out records on my own. Getting them onto like these streaming apps it's easier now than it's ever been to put out your own music. You can take a beat, you can just have an instrumental album. You can get features, you can have your own stuff set up on all these streaming websites. You can be on the same YouTube playlist that these major artists are. So the thing that I'm most excited about is, for example, I have a record with an artist named Luke Nasty. And I went to his place. We cooked up a record in like half an hour. And he's like, you know what? You should put this on your album. So that's what I'm working on right now. I'm working on getting my own stuff together, getting my own features, and not having to wait for the labels like deadline or, for them to have to clear a sample. The sample actually came from a guy that I know named MTK, and he cleared the sample.
Shout out to MTK.
Yeah, he's insanely talented. So, he cleared the sample for me over the phone. So now it's like, all right, I don't have to hope that the label does things in my favor. I am the label. So that's what I'm most excited about, is really just putting out my own artists and, just taking my career in my own hands.
So speaking of taking your career in your own hands, where do recording artists find your online beat catalog?
DjayCas.BeatStars.com.
DJAYCAS.
Yeah. Another thing is people can be looking at your name for 40 hours at a time and then still somehow find a way to spell it wrong. So yes, it is DJAYCAS Beats. That's exactly how you can find it. You got to spell it right though.
All right. Once again, appreciate you stopping through and sharing your experiences and speaking so honestly about the music business. Much continued success too, man.
Most definitely, man. I appreciate you for hooking us up.